welcome to Toffee TV. It is the final word. Wolves 3, Everton 0. And we were lucky to get 0.
We were
lucky to get 0 in what was probably one of the worst performances of the season. Certainly the worst, I think, under Carlo Ancelotti. Although it
took some doing that after the last 2 performances, didn't it?
Yeah, but I'll be honest. I think when we both sat here and we did the preview on Friday, I think we were both quite worried about where this game was going to go.
Yeah, definitely.
And it ended up being probably what we thought it was going to be. A very, very lacklustre affair from us. Clearly, Wolves are chasing that European place and smell blood, and that's simply the way it went. And I don't know. It just, I think it brought home, and I think that all 3 games have brought home how far away we are and how much we actually really need, and how much Carlo can mess with the system and mess with putting things in place, and yet it's not enough if you haven't got the players.
Yeah, I mean, we were up against a team that's really well drilled, know the jobs, good at what they do, and also had that little bit extra to play for. I think what I've noticed, and certainly since the final whistle at Spurs the other night, was just how much when Everton realised that the Europa League was gone, that the drop-off has been incredible. I just so disappointing. I mean, the Spurs game was terrible in terms of, you know, I didn't think we were up against a great side at all. And yeah, you know, we just couldn't do anything in an attacking sense. And then Southampton was a bit more disappointing. They played us off the park in the first 45 minutes totally. And then obviously Ancelotti was able to tactically change it and stifle it a little bit. And then this game, he changed it again. You can understand fully why he changed it. But it just hasn't been good enough. And it's just, you know, like you said, we sat here doing the preview and I don't think either of us were confident at all. And they put us to the sword because they're a good side. And, you know.
Well, we went with we went with 3-5-2, which was what we both mentioned in the preview. We went with that in our starting 11, and to be fair, defensively, it did work up until the penalty.
It did, yeah.
I think they'd had 1 shot at Pickford. They'd had loads of the ball.
Yeah,
and that, I think something we mentioned in the preview was, or certainly in recent videos, is the worry was in the last few games was we were putting out, probably every game we've played so far, we were putting sides out just to stifle the other teams. And apart from the Leicester game, where obviously we got the 2 goals up, we just weren't attacking, and every system was just to close down somebody else. We've seen it against Leicester in the second half. We've seen it against Southampton. Second half, Liverpool for the whole game. Norwich a little bit less so, because it was a bit more of an open game. And we've seen it in this game. We put a system on to basically stop them. And as I said, up to the penalty, it was doing all right, but we just couldn't get forward. And then once they got the penalty and they scored, then they come out second half. And obviously we'd had to have changes with Mina going off, and Leighton Baines went off. We couldn't get it back. They obviously smelled blood and went for it, and ended up beating us quite convincingly.
We made the changes and it was, you know, it was fine. I think it was the right thing to do. I think if we'd have gone 4-4-2 from the very off, I think they'd have bet us up in the first half as well. There was just a couple of little things I felt with where we could have maybe changed it. And I know we went with Luca Dean as the left-sided centre-back and Baines as the left wing-back for pace. You know, they probably thought maybe Everton and Carlo thought Adama Traore would start, so they were looking at that pace. running through. But 5 minutes into the game and you see he's not on the pitch, for me, we should have swapped Baines and Dean.
Yeah.
Because Dean's the one who flies up and gets the attack.
I thought that myself.
We could have changed that. Because early on, Walcott played a fantastic ball to Calvert-Lewin. He got a shot, so it was a good save. You know, you'd expect him to save. He'll dominate it well. It was going in. It was a good stop. And very similar to the one Wolves had Adam Pickford save, but good move. And that was a bit of encouragement, and it was like, yeah, we can get round these. And then we never did that again. It's like that.
We've said that every game.
We do something that gets us through, and then it's like, oh, don't do that again. It was just weird. But we just couldn't get any foothold in the game. And Sigurdsson and Davis, every pass was backwards, or they'd run. Particularly, not Gylfi doesn't really run, does he? Just stays in a little area. But Tom Davis would get it and go on a little run and be like, right, do something forward, not and turn back. We see Anthony Gordon doing, although I thought Gordon was okay, but he was doing it running, and it's like check back, and you've lost all the momentum. And when you look at sides who were confident or players who were quicker, they never turn back. They're going at the goal. So what we found very quickly was, again, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison were isolated. Richarlison then you could done the thing he done at Norwich, which is get a cob on, because he wasn't getting the ball. So he was out the game. Then when his head goes, he's out the game. Dom tries and runs around, but wasn't very effective. And we just ended up just sitting in our half, closing the space down, which is okay if it's like, you know, we need a point here. But it's a game where
I thought
they didn't do anything. Did they, really?
I thought, for me, I think the biggest issue has been, and I think it got massively highlighted in this game, is that when we came back, we played in the derby, everyone was switched on to what we needed to do. That game, Merseyside derby, Goodison Park, everyone is switched on to making sure that we stay in the shape, we do what the instructions are, and we work hard and we get something out of the game. And I think what's happened in the games is, once we got enough points that we were safe, you know, and then we started to look up. Once it looked like we didn't have it physically or whatever because of a game every 3 days, players have just started dropping off now and stopped doing what their job in the system, because it's all about the system. And players, and yesterday was the biggest illustration of that, where players just started to do their own things and forget about how the system. Now that might be partly due to the fact that they've only had a couple of days in to not to learn a new system, because they should be developing all the time, but asked to play in different roles than they did. And there's going to be a little bit of exhaustion, there's going to be injuries and all that, people carrying niggles. But I just thought you could see mentally people had just switched off. And I know at this time of year in the season, we always have, you know, the idea of the flip-flops on and all that. But if you're asked to play in a system, that means you're you're a cog of a bigger thing. And when you start seeing one or two just drop off, the whole thing falls apart. And I think certainly second half, that's what you saw more than anything. And sadly, it is the usual suspects that are doing that. You know, it is the centre midfield who just decide, oh, I'm not going to do that thing I've been asked to do. I'm just going to start doing my own thing or do no thing. And that's the thing, isn't it?
The thing that really depresses me more than anything is the fact that, and it has to be mentioned, that we've spent a lot of money, right? And we've spent a lot of money to look like a team that still has to go to places like, no disrespect to Wolves, Wolves are a good side, but going to places like Wolves and treating it like it's Anfield or the Etihad, where we've just got to try to hang on.
Wolves,
we've spent money.
But a side like Wolves don't do that, though. A side like Wolves would go to the Etihad and Anfield and have a go. And you might get beat, but they'd have a go on their teams. They go to Wolves. And
why are we doing
But I fully understand why Carlo is doing that at the moment, because he understands that we're crap.
But I'm just saying that's the biggest thing for me, is that I'm not blaming Ancelotti. I'm just saying the amount of money we spent for a team to still turn up at these places and look like we're trying to survive is nonsense.
I think everyone understands now that the recruitment, and you know, we've seen different things, seen Andy Gray talk about it. The recruitment policy has been just, over the last 4 years, 5 years, has just been horrendous. Yeah. Horrendous. The type of players, and I've said this over different periods of time, and I'm sick of talking about it. The types of players that we go after for me, are just horrendous. They're always someone else's cast off, and it's great. And it's great. You're going, oh yeah, we went to Barcelona and we bought 3 of their players. So what? We bought 3 of their players that they didn't want. We went to Arsenal, bought 2 of their players that they didn't want. We went, you know, we've been to all these clubs and bought everyone else's cast-offs. And what does that get you? That gets you a mentality of players who feel like it's a step down for them straight away, as far as I'm concerned. And you know, we know our best players are players like Richarlison, who's come up a level, who's fighting to probably get to
Luka Dean's our second best
player.
player.
He is, and I'll give. No, I know, and he's technically a very good player, and I think he is, and he's the only one I would go, yeah, you're right. You know, not you're right, but you know, he is technically a very good player. But all the other ones, there's a reason why. You know, Yerry Mina, he's been pretty good this season, but he has these injury problems. You know, Andre Gomez, he's a good player, but then he's got other issues, or he's physically can't compete or whatever. Everywhere, all over the pitch, this is our problem.
There's an issue with it, yeah.
You know, these are our problems. You know, Michael Keane looks great when you put him on a low block, but you ask him to play slightly out of position or up against a tricky player, he's gone. He's completely gone. And our recruitment is being absolutely diabolical. And what needs to happen now, we were talking about it with Andy, the Piv, is there has to be a mindset change of stop looking to buy these players that might cost you 30 million, 35 million plus, who are like the best of the rest, because that's where we're aiming at, and start going, you know what? Why don't we start looking in the Championship a little bit and go, why don't we go and try and grab 2 of the best players in the Championship, like we used to under Moyes, and get that kind of player into the squad who looks around and goes, I want more than this. I want to take you up. I want to get to the next level. Because I think that's something like Richarlison's done. He's gone and gone, well, I've been at Watford, now I'm at Everton. But you know what? I want to get to that next level. And I think that's what we've got to start doing now. And the recruitment's been horrible. Absolutely horrible.
I think
Fabian Delph, someone else's, you know, City, an offcast from City. You know,
that just doesn't work, does it? But
we have to start looking. We have to start looking and going, well, why are we paying 8 million quid for a 28, 29-year-old who's got injury problems when we could go and buy a 21, 22-year-old who might not have done anything he's done, but is on the way up?
I agree. I just think that, I mean, I'd be sat here being hypocritical if I was calling Delph out when we were signing him. It was like, oh, I can understand why we're signing him, and he might be a good addition for us, and he'll bring this and that. It hasn't worked. It's gone to all the people who were negative about it. It's proved them right. He'd never fit. He's not been fit. He's not done it. So I think there's a place for both. You see, I think where we've done the recruitment wrong for me is we've gone all on one side and forgot about the other side. Whereas I think the ideal, if you're bringing 8 players in, it should be 4 from each. So you should be bringing players in who you go, you know what, I can rely on this kid regardless of what's going on. He's going to do it. We did it with Kale. We did it with Jagielka, Lescott, Baines. Okay, I know football's moved on, but they're still only 10 years ago that these lads were all good footballers.
Has it moved on though? Because Burnley and Sheffield United would suggest it hasn't moved on. Burnley and Sheffield United
are very British-based teams, though, aren't they?
So why can't... Well, I'm not being xenophobic here, but why can't we go out and do that? Why can't we go out and go, see this lad here, he's been brilliant for whoever, right? He's 2 million, 3 million, 4 million quid. Take a chance on him. Because actually, we can develop him.
But you know what backs that up? By actually looking at the numbers as well. So be smart with the signings. Forget it. You're right. Forget about going, James Rodriguez, James Rodriguez at Real Madrid. Oh my God. Remember that goal he scored for Colombia, and he's done this for Real and he's done this for Bayern Munich. Go and look at his actual numbers, look at his fitness record and have a look. And then have a look whether there's a lad in France or a lad in the Championship or a lad somewhere else who mightn't be as flashy and as exciting. The Sangari thing makes me laugh. There's a thing because some journalist, or I don't know whether was it Paddy, but whoever said, oh, Everton are unsure about Sangari because of how technical he is on the ball. And that just makes me laugh. We're the most technically gifted midfield. Our midfield's crap. absolute garbage on the ball. That's why Gomez has to play, because he's better than anyone else, right?
Yeah,
but Sangari's 6'5", 21, powerhouse who could develop.
And you know what, the way I look at it like that, right? And you're absolutely right. I think there's like, you're gonna have, let's say you got 2 sets of players, and you've got the bottom set there that we used to buy from, who were players who were like, I'd seen there's a glass ceiling or something, and we're trying to break through. We'd sign those players, and we'd sign 3 or 4 of them, and then maybe we'd get that one who's slight. So like Yakubu was like the one that was being like added all at that little bit extra.
Yeah.
Even in Martinez's first season, you get a Lukaku, but you get a James McCarthy to balance it out.
Yeah.
He's the workhorse.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
He's the lad who's not afraid to work hard, and Lukaku's the cherry on top.
And Gareth Barry was just a brilliant professional.
Exactly. So you've got that balance. And I think what we've been doing is we've been looking at that top tier, going, that's where we should be. We're Everton Football Club. We want to get to the top. But we're scraping the barrel of the bottom. We're on the bottom trying to buy players. Whereas we could have gone to the next one down and bought the best one. And that's what I'm saying. That's what
buying a jacuzzi without putting a bath in the bathroom.
But that's what I'm saying. We should be going to the one below and going, right, who's the one below? Who's the best of the best there? Who's fighting to get into that next bit? That's who we should be buying. Not the ones who are in the top ones, but on their arse.
Well, 2 of Everton's best players at the moment have come from Championship clubs. Mason Holgate and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So, okay, Sheffield United are a Premier League club now. When we bought them, they were in League One. So
Barnsley,
Barnsley were there. So you're right, but that's what I'm talking about, balance. For every Andre Gomez, there needed to be a James McCarthy type person to go with him and match it together. There's nothing wrong with buying Jean-Philippe Gbamin and going, he's going to be bossing him. But then go and buy someone who you know is going to be there for you every week and let him develop. Because what you're doing also is, you're not giving these lads who are coming from Europe and who might be multi-talented, you're not giving them any settling in time. So everything has to be now. If we'd have bought Gbamin and bought a thingy at Leeds, Kieran Phillips, the lad in midfield from Leeds, who's a Leeds lad, hard worker. If we'd have gone and bought him as well and threw him in and said to Gbamin's injured, it's a terrible example, but if he wouldn't have been, or say we'd have bought, I don't know, say we'd have got Olivier Giroud last summer and we were able to get Moise Kean as well. You would have said to Moise Kean, Moise Kean would have been sold on the fact that we've got this lad. It's just a development year, this one. We're hoping he'll be better next year. We don't have to rely on him because we've got these players here. But the Moise Kean thing's backfired because he was 28 million or 26 million, whatever it was, rising to whatever, from Juventus, sold as like a genuine starter for us. And because it hasn't quite worked like that, all the pressure's on him now. And now people are looking and going, it's not good enough.
Well, you look at Wolves, and Wolves have done. The Wolves players, okay, they've got, saying this in my match reaction, they've got, see, the funny thing about it is because they're all Portuguese, there's this idea that they're all like amazing footballers. But they've got some real hard working players in there who just happen to be Portuguese as well. You know, and they've got a really good mix, and they've got.
But they've got the likes of Connor Cody at the back.
That's what I'm saying. They've got British as well. But all the players work hard and know their roles. And sound like the Rock then. And they do the jobs. They know exactly what they do. And you look at us, and it's just again. I know we can, you know, 4 or 5 managers. It's just the whole thing. The whole recruitment thing has just been an absolute disaster. And it's not like I can sit here and go, well, it's getting better, or Brands is making it better, because he's added to it. I'm afraid to say he's added to the idea of, again, these players. We're looking in the wrong place as far as I'm concerned. For players, we're looking like I'm just repeating myself, but we're looking like we are one of these boss teams. Whereas really we should be down here going, let's get a couple of them in, like we're saying.
It's a mix. You've got to get the mix. Like,
let's have a look at the numbers from the game. 2 shots on target from us, absolutely horrendous. I'm surprised we had 45% possession.
Because the first half was even-ish. I mean, were you know, look at them.
In the first half, I'm up to the penalty. I was content. It was a nothing game.
Yeah. They were doing nothing.
They were done nothing. They had one shot. We'd had one shot. It was a nothing game. It was just when the penalty happened. And I'm not even sure it was... I'm still not sure if it was a penalty.
It wasn't a penalty.
I'm still not sure it was...
There was a bit of... Not every... The referee said this the other day about the James Ward-Prowse one. Not every contact in the box is a foul. The lad tried to do a fancy spin, connected with Luca Dean. That didn't make him go down. He then spun and then fell.
And then... But again, none of our players could just all stand there.
Well, VAR's nonsense. We've
No,
got to just accept
but our players just stand there and they all just take it. There's no complaints.
No.
As I said, and listen, you can stop something at any time, and it can make it look worse or better. But his foot standing on Luca Dean's foot. Now people can say, well, yeah, but after that he took him out. Well, who's to say that lad's foot kicking Luca Dean, standing on Luca Dean, didn't instigate the contact following? So
I don't think it was a penalty. And that's not just
because the lead.
That's not just because it's against them.
He took the lead.
And once they took the lead,
And as I said,
it was over. I mean, even I was unsure if it was even a foul for the free kick for the second goal.
Well, the second goal
went
came
down
out straight after
well.
half time. Obviously,
Do you think, just before you get onto that, do you think he changed it too soon? Like at half time? Like he just abandoned? Because if I was the manager there, we'd got up to half time. I'd be disappointed we conceded and we hadn't really tested them. But I'd be thinking, they've done nothing.
I suppose, no, you're right. I suppose he probably looked at it thinking, we need to get back into this game and this formation won't allow us to get back in the game. But like we said, you know, I could understand, he wanted Luca Dean playing higher because he's our main attacking threat.
Take Baines off,
he took Baines off.
Branthwaite.
He brought Branthwaite on. And maybe he could have stuck with that 3 and left it as it was. I don't know. It did seem... I just felt like if Branthwaite had come into a 3, it would have been a lot easier for him.
I thought he'd done all right.
I was actually... I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit disappointed he never brought Branthwaite on for Mina. I'll be honest, I was.
Yeah.
I just thought, well, if you're taking a centre-back off, bring it...
No, I was at the time.
I know Seamus Coleman's got all the experience and everything, but I was a little bit disappointed in that. He's your centre-back, bring him on.
And he's left footed.
He's ended up bringing him on. Kids made a foul. Was it a foul? I don't think so. I think that's the difference. I think if you play in the lower leagues or maybe in the under-23,
get away with it.
You can't breathe on anyone, but maybe in the lower leagues you can get away with that. But that, you know, listen, it's a straight ball, and
he lets the donkey get across.
He lets him get across.
He's got to learn,
and it's in the back of the net.
I think the keeper should have saved it.
It's all about the keeper in the middle.
I know, but do you think when he headed it?
Listen, I've said it enough times. I think he's a joke. I think he's an absolute joke. And I think yesterday, we'll talk about it in a minute. I think yesterday proved that I think he's a joke. And honestly, the faster we get rid of him, honestly, I think he's a joke. And I think yesterday proved everything I've said about him. The lad is an absolute liability because he cannot concentrate on football. It's clear as day. In 3 of the last 4 games, he's dropped things that have, and he's threw things almost into his own net. And that's concentration. That's nothing else but concentration. That's not talent, ability, or anything else. That is concentration. And I think we've seen on Saturday, when Liverpool played Burnley, forget about what you think about Nick Pope, or you think he's a good keeper or whatever. At 1-0, Liverpool are battering Burnley's goal. And that lad kept them in the game long enough for Burnley to go and get an equaliser and nearly win the game at the end. And that's the point. That's the point where a great goalkeeper saves that header. A great goalkeeper saves that header.
A bigger goalie probably saves it because it goes through it goes past his fingers, doesn't it?
Yeah. So. A good goalie or a big goalie saves that and keeps you in the game. Yeah,
a straight ball into the box, and it was a header from the edge of the box should be creeping in for me.
I begged Chelsea to come and take him. I begged them to come and take them. Anyway, and we're 2-0 down and the game's over. Yeah, but after that, I'm afraid the attitude of far too many players it needs to be questioned. You know, Gylfi Sigurdsson. Seeing the stills. Yeah. Seeing the stills. There's a centre-back's got the ball. And Gylfi Sigurdsson's on. and he's got no one near him, and he can turn if he gets the ball and goes and look up, and he's pointing to go wide. And you're thinking, that's you, mate.
He's great at, he's brilliant at 3-yard passes, isn't he? He's brilliant at 3-yard passes, and he was atrocious, and so was Tom Davis, the pair of them, but absolutely shocking.
Well, just going back to the goal, Everton have conceded 35 goals away from home in the Premier League this season. Only Newcastle have conceded more.
It's mad, isn't it? Because we'd had, up till yesterday, we'd only let a single goal in a 3 of the 5 games, and you were going, we looked defensively, we're okay. And I know, listen, 2 set pieces, and you've conceded 2 goals, and then the caught out for the 3rd goal, and that's fine, because we have, this is the thing with Ancelotti, is that he can only go with what he's got, and what he's done really well is, he's give us a structure, and it's worked. Now, okay, the one thing I can't get my head around, and it might just be the fact we're playing in empty stadiums, I don't know, but we look totally different than the team that is went into lockdown.
Yeah.
Before lockdown, Chelsea aside, when we just were terrible.
Well, United game.
We looked like a team. We looked like a dangerous team. We weren't great, but we looked like a dangerous team who caused people problems. And now,
and I think that's because, well, at home anyway. I think that's because we have players who play on emotion a lot of the time, and we have players who play on emotion. They rise to the occasion when we're at home.
But even
and by the way, one thing we can say is, forget all this absolute bollocks that I hear every single week about Goodison Park being toxic and all this other nonsense that's spilt out, right? About players not being able to take the criticism and all this. I'm sorry, this to me proves that Goodison Park is a force for good and nothing else. Because, and I'm not asked whether anyone wants to argue about that, this proves it. This proves that playing at Goodison Park in front of our fans is 1,000 times more beneficial, whether the fans are on the back of the players or not. Sometimes fans need to be on the back of the players to get them going. I'm sick of all this nonsense that's spouted about people about, oh, you can't shout at players and you can't do this and you can't do that, right? Football is about pure emotion. It's about pure emotion when it comes to the fans. We don't think with our heads. We think with our heart. If we thought with our heads, we'd all change clubs every 5 minutes.
Jim White wants you to.
Well, Jim White does. We think with our we think with our emotion. It's all about emotion. Football.
That's why we keep going back.
Exactly.
And back. Otherwise, if you were thought with your head, you'd never go back.
You're just wasting money.
What am I doing?
You're wasting money, wasting life.
You're wasting your life.
You know,
you're stressing over it.
And good, it proves. And I think our players show, and I think some of our players get more. I think Richarlison's someone who absolutely craves that, and that's why, for me, I think he'll end up at the very top, no matter what people think about him. I think when we played like Crystal Palace, and he had a bit of a sulk on, the energy of the fans was like, I'm going. But in this game, he can't get that.
No.
And that's why I think he'll end up at. I was watching, I think Amazon Video put a tweet out the other day. It was a year since Brazil won it. And you looked at him, and there's a little thing about him taking the penalty. I thought, imagine being 21 years of age, it's your first major tournament, and someone says to you in the last minute, here's the ball to go and win the tournament, to seal it for them. You've got all these world stars on the pitch. No, I won it. I'm taking responsibility. And he took it. And his last penalty was a penalty that I smashed over at the Gladys Street in the air.
The adulation, isn't it?
And he took it and he loved it. And he loves it. We know he loves it. And that's the difference. Whereas some of our players, we think they hide when it comes to these moments. But we've seen them in empty stadiums, and they go even more missing in empty stadiums. So that can be dismissed. But I just think, like I said before,
that doesn't mean it's a positive thing to get on the backs of players, though, as well.
It's not a positive thing to get on the backs of players, but now and again you have to remind the players why they're playing. I remember being at a game at Goodison Park when we were playing Tingyo in the Europa League. Kiev. And it was like after players, and it was like the whole crowd at once just went, what are you doing? And it just, they all woke up and we won the game. We needed them in the second, like, clearly. But you need that emotion. What I think in a game like this is that if there's a crowd there, the players do wake up or do understand that they have to do the
urgency, isn't it?
Exactly. And urgency.
We don't have any.
We don't have any. Gylfi Sigurdsson made 2 passes to Jordan Pickford against Wolves, as many as he made to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and 1 more than he made to Richarlison. He just needs to leave this football club, and I mean that in him and Everton that aren't compatible anymore. They're not compatible. He doesn't have the legs. We were told last summer his legs had gone. And I think no, it's a year later now, but we're clearly seeing it now.
You can watch him. He's not that he obviously wants to do well. He just hasn't got the tools to do it in the Premier League. Not in that position. You know, whether he could go to another club and play off the striker and
another country.
No, but I mean, there might be I don't know whether there is, but there might be a Premier League club that would like him to play as another striker or a number 10 behind. I don't think he can do it. I think another country where the pace is slower would suit him. Technically, he's a good footballer, but it doesn't mean anything. If you're not affecting the game, like he doesn't, you're not affecting the play. You're going through the motions almost because you haven't got the ability. There's just too many snapshots where he's running back towards our goal. And yeah, there was one, Matt Doherty, they had one early on, where he played the ball. Sigurdsson was a goal side. Doherty played the ball and burst through. Sigurdsson was behind him, 15 yards behind him, and he'd been 10 yards ahead of him when he started.
Well, we spoke after the Spurs game about Gary Neville. Well, yesterday it was Carragher. There was a ball.
Did Carragher say
Carragher was like, what are you doing? He had the ball, and there was a pass forward on, and I'm pretty sure he just played it sideways, or he played it like backwards.
Surely they'd gone backwards.
And Carragher just was like, because Carragher was like full Evertonian, by the way.
Was he? Yeah.
Oh yeah. He was fuming, but it was like, he was just like, I can't believe, like, what's he doing? I just can't believe what he's doing. Honestly, because he's a player now that he's like trying to protect his own legacy.
Yeah.
He's hiding. He doesn't want to do the hard things, so he doesn't do anything. He goes hiding in games. And sadly, he doesn't, Tom doesn't need any more to go wrong for him, because he's doing enough on his own to look terrible. But it makes it even worse for Tom Davis. And they are literally the worst partnership that's ever invented. Honestly, they are the worst. And this is what Carlo's got to work with. He's got to work with players who just...
But he's got to make some big decisions himself. And I know sometimes you put players in who you think will get you through because of experience, but him and Davis, they're not good enough. No. Tom Davis, whatever people think of him, and I know a lot of people think he's garbage. I don't think he's garbage, but I think his confidence is on the floor, and he's playing terribly. So for me, I don't see how he can play in our team. He needs a loan to protect us. To protect the investment in him that we've made. And that either means that we get a good, but he either goes and does well and you go, oh, actually he's all right as a squad player. Or he goes and does well and you go, right, we can now get some decent money for him and sell him. He shouldn't be in our midfield now. He's not doing it. There's been too many games when he hasn't performed, and he's the same as everybody else. And anyone can go back and watch him. You get him. I didn't want him because he had no pace, and I was like, why are we buying someone that can't run? He's terrible. He's technically a good footballer.
I think when we bought him, the numbers all suggested, didn't he?
Yeah, they did. The
numbers all suggested that we were getting a player to replace Ross Barkley. And the set pieces, the assists, he'd come off the great.
That was it. They were all up there. He was no one had assisted more.
But I think simply his legs have gone, and
the styles changed. The formations changed.
Tom is, like you just said there, Tom is not developed the way we want him to develop. And again, whether that be, he's another one who's had to play under different managers, and who's like, again, we don't, I'm not going to go over it, but we've said it 1,000 times. When Tom came into the team, you know what? No, it's weird, right? Tom, when he first came into the team, he looked. This sounds stupid. He looked taller because he played very upright with his head up all the time. Now he's always looking down. He's always looking down, and his best skill is falling over. and winning fouls.
He's class.
I always say, he always ends a run by being on the floor. And he's got no confidence to do anything. I don't think he's got the ability to do anything because he hasn't trained on. He's not got faster. He hasn't physically developed. And he doesn't have the ability to move like he used to move. Like I say, he used to be always upright, head up, confident, trying to take
that
people
goal
on.
against City, he picked up and left people for dead. Now he looks like he's running in treacle.
Exactly.
I just don't understand. He's not at this moment in time. He ain't good enough.
No, and
therefore
right,
he shouldn't be anywhere near the team.
He signed a new contract not so long ago, so you'd say to him, you're gonna have to go out somewhere for a year because, like you just said, you're protecting the asset. You've got to. You want people going, oh, he's a good. At the moment,
right, I'll pay
at the
him.
moment, people go, he's crappy. We're doing you a favour. Send him on loan, and suddenly it's like John Joe. You know, before John Joe went, couldn't get in the Everton team. No one cared about him. He has a decent loan, and people are like, oh, he looks all right, you know. And I think the same has to happen.
Got to, but them two as a partnership, horrific. Don't play, please. Carlo, please do not put them anywhere near the team.
Well, I think with 3 games to go with the season, it's whatever he wants to do, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't know what he'd do.
Throw Beningame in.
I know.
And Benny Beningame isn't the answer.
Well, he's clearly
he's
not.
not the answer. He's probably not good enough. And anyone watching it, I don't want anyone to think I'm saying he's brilliant because he's not, right? But I'm just fed up of watching those two in the middle of the park. Throw a lad in who will just run around.
I'm fed up. I mean, I think another big problem in the second half of this game was we just threw loads of players on, and I don't know where Bernard and Iwobi and
what was Bernard doing
for the third goal?
What was Bernard doing for anything? He fell up. Someone shoved him. He ended up in Villa Park. It was nonsense. Iwobi turns back now all the time. I don't know. There must be like a mandate before you go on the pitch that says you've got to pass the ball back. Them two. Moise Keane come on. I'm convinced now that someone's told him, has like done like a mind thing with him. You know, like the old Will Smith in Men in Black, because he doesn't look like he knows how to play up front.
Looks like he's a footballer.
He doesn't know. He just runs, sprints with it, kicks it. I don't know.
Maybe it's still there, Martinez's mind.
Yeah, it must be because he doesn't know how to play the role of a striker.
The third goal, Bernard gets like just pushed off the ball dead easy. The lad just plays this ball. Michael Keane is looking at the ball like there's something behind the ball.
Like he was at Anfield.
Like he's looking at it going, there's the ball, but is that a spaceship? Yeah. Like, you know, the Comet or something? And he's looking at it, and instead of like looking at the player who's running away from him, and he's the Tin Man, I call them. And the lad just takes it, and again, the lad takes it down.
Good strike. But near post.
That wouldn't have beat me.
Near post.
That would not have beat me.
Good strike, but
no,
near post.
that would not have beat me. I'd have saved that.
I can't prove that, but
honestly, that wouldn't have beat me.
But all I'll say,
I would have just gone like that.
All I'll say, it was a good strike, but keepers shouldn't be getting beat at the near post like that. That's all I'd say about it. If he went across him, back across him, and he couldn't get there, but the near post, no. But Everton, Diogo Jota. So,
while we're here, let's. So, I mean, and I like the first still because it shows it very clearly. But absolutely zero. That's zero. Like I remember when I was a kid, and I had a few games in goal. I was a good goalie actually, mostly because of my size. But I was a good goalie, and I remember like a couple of people trying to show me a few things. And the first basic thing of playing in goal is you have literally one foot behind the other so that the ball can't go through you. He's the England #1, right? And look at his body shape. And that's the second time that's happened.
In 2 weeks, yeah.
And he just, luckily this time, he managed to stop it going on that save and then does that. And that, what's most frustrating is, right, that isn't as infuriating as that. Fans will excuse that. That's a mistake. That's being a dickhead.
I've said it before, that's him almost trying to prove to everybody that like it doesn't affect me, this. I'm sound. Look at me. Oh, that nearly went. No, that's great if it's 4-0 to you.
Yeah.
then people will laugh at that and go, look at him there, a soft get. When you're 2-0 down and you're laughing, or 3-0, that was 2-0, wasn't it then? It's inexcusable. All of that needs to be cut out, because...
When he's at Chelsea. No, Baz, I don't want this man at my football club. I don't want him at my football club.
I'm not saying you do, but I'm saying to you, the first thing he needs to do, whoever he's playing for, whether it's Everton, England, Chelsea, Coventry, whoever,
It might be
right,
Coventry.
is cut that nonsense out. Shake your head, punch the floor, show people that you're fuming with yourself for making a mistake. Not have a laugh and get up. We're getting beat. Now, all right, the players might think, not asked, it doesn't matter. We're not going to go up. We're not going to go down. It means nothing. Blah, blah, blah. I can't wait to just get this season over. Us as fans want to see shoots of improvement. We want to see something's moving forward. We live in the same city as the league champions now. Now, whether people want to use that as a barometer or not, that's a fact. We want to see progression from our football club. We've spent a lot of money and we're not seeing any progression. We've got one of the top managers in world football, and yet we've got players laughing when they make mistakes. It's all that play with a smile on your face. That's great when you're winning, but you know, when you're losing and things aren't going right, you've got to show more. Now, that won't bother some people, and that's fine. You know what? He is what he is. I've kind of just go, he is what he is, but there's too much of that. There's too much of trying to project to everybody that it doesn't affect you.
But like,
it clearly
like you were
does.
saying before, though, he should. I think a top class keeper saves the second goal, and I think an average keeper.
Third goal. Second goal.
And I think an average keeper
saves
saves the third goal. And then you're doing this, and it's, to me, it's just. I'd honestly, I'd be looking around and thinking, who wants him? First thing I really hope is that he loses his England spot.
Yeah.
I really hope so, because I honestly think that's the only thing he cares about. I think it's the only thing he cares about. I think if he loses that, then that might be the thing that focuses mine.
I think it's only a matter of time.
You've got
hope and you've got
you look at, put it this way, right? It's great. It's great having a goalkeeper who's decent with his feet. Not that we ever see it. For England, he's great with his feet. Apparently, we never see it. But when you're a team and you're struggling, we're in the bottom half of the table. You want someone. I'm not asked what he does with his feet. I want him to save shots, and I know Nick Pope would have saved two goals. Penalty, okay, that's it. But I know he would have, because he's big and he's strong, and he would have saved both of them. And yet he didn't. And yeah, so I hope he loses that spot. And as I said, I wouldn't shed a tear if he leaves Everton, because I just think his attitude is completely wrong for where we are right now. We want players who are serious about, and you're absolutely right. He's like giving all that, but that to me is just. I don't know. He might say, listen, I have no idea. The camera was there. I just pulled my tongue out. Split second thing, stupid, whatever. I just, for me, even if it's nothing to do with that, it's, for me, you're letting he dropped one in the first half. Yeah. That to me is concentration. Probably because there's no fans there. He probably gets. I don't know. I just don't think. I think if you could ship him out for 60 million, my God, that'd help the FFP.
He's going to pay 60 million.
Chelsea might. They're stupid. I just don't think. I don't think he's good enough anyway. I don't think he's good enough goalkeeper for us, for what we need. We need a competent goalkeeper.
We need people who are serious, like you just said. We need people who are hurt when you lose a game of football. We've seen Seamus Coleman come out after the game. Okay, Seamus, his best days are behind him. He's still a decent defender, and he's still a very important member of the squad. But you could tell he was, he's fuming, because he had to go with him earlier on. I don't know whether you'd seen it for something. Coleman turned around, like, what? It was when they got through. They broke through, and he come out, and it got blocked. It went for a corner. He come out and missed the ball in the second half. Coleman had to go with him, and he's like, what? Like, and Coleman's like, what the fuck, what are you doing? Yeah. Or it might have been when Traore smashed it? Well, whatever, it was something, and Coleman had to go with him. And if you're Seamus Coleman and looking round that pitch and you're seeing players, not asked. Gylfi Sigurdsson, 20% of his tackles he won. 20% playing in the centre of the park. Tom Davis, 33% of his tackles won. That's your two midfield.
The whole...
and then you've got okay, losing Gary Meanan was a blow because he's a natural centre-back. Can't have a go at other people who are in there, but what are you, as an attacking player, what are you, we can go on about, you know, Dom and Richie feeding off scraps and it's bad, but where are them two players trying to get in the game? Neither of them.
No,
right?
I said this.
Your wide players.
I thought one of them should have started coming back and looking for the ball.
Get the ball and get yourselves going. Where was Walcott? Played a great ball early on, never seen it again. What did he do? Where was Baines on the other side and do anything? Where was Iwobi when he come on? Where was Bernard when he come on? What did Moise Keane do?
There's too many of them.
When he come on? We can't carry play. We're not good enough to carry players.
We're carrying 7, 8 at a time.
Yesterday we carried 10.
We're carrying 7, 8 at a time now, and it's. But you've seen it develop over a week.
Yeah.
Over a week.
But that to me is only because
attitude.
They've just thought, well, we can't get in Europe, doesn't matter now. And when you drop, and it might only be 2 or 3%, but if the other team haven't dropped 2 or 3%, you get done.
That's the thing, and don't forget, like, Wolves, good side, but we've got 3 games now where all 3 sides have got some, you know. Villa coming up Thursday night. Villa's got a chance to stay up now, so they'll be fine. They're going to Goodison. Sheffield United on the Monday, European football. Yeah. Last game of the season, Bournemouth, they won last night, so they'll be thinking, well, we'll see where we are by then. But if it comes down to the last game of the season, they'll be throwing the kitchen sink at us, and we're going to get we potentially could get embarrassed in all 3 games. And when I say embarrassed, I don't mean like scoreline embarrassed. I just mean competitively embarrassed, because the other team want to win the game, and we haven't got enough professional pride to go out and do a job. And I'm sick to death of it. I really am. I just, there's so many factors. The club to me at the moment are just, there's so much wrong, and the worry is for me that Carlo's not going to have enough. He's not going to have enough to fix it. In terms of like thinking that we're gonna, I think people have got this idea that when the season finishes, it'll all be magically fixed, and I don't think it will be, and that's what worries me. And the worry will be if people don't see it fixed, then they'll start turning on Carlo. And I look at the tools he's got to use, and I just think he's never had. I think even when he had bad sides, he had players who had the attitude, that would fight. And I'm just hoping that he can get 2 or 3 in. One that's like exactly what he wants, like an Allen or someone. I'm not saying it will happen, but
that's who he wants.
And then a couple more who just inject something into the squad, where he can get rid of a couple of who don't care, who need to be moved on. And if we don't, this isn't going to change. He's not a good enough coach to suddenly go, end of the day, it comes down to players. You got players. I watched Sheffield United on Saturday. The attitude is incredible. The attitude of the players, and I don't even know half of their players, but the attitude is just, we're not going to concede goals, and we're going to work our socks off to beat you. You know, it's a completely different world to what we're doing. And that's where I look, and I just think we're in trouble. As a club, we're in trouble if we do not get this sorted out. We've got all... What makes it worse is we've got all the things in place to do it. We've got a manager. We've got money. We've got a stadium on the horizon. And yet, it feels like we've missed the boat. It feels like we spent bad money, that we can't spend good money now. It just feels like, I don't know, there's like an invisible wall stopping us from improving. Whereas really it should be, just go and buy 4 players. And I know that hasn't worked in the past, but what I mean by that is go and buy 4 players who are technically very good, hard-working, committed players that will immediately improve. I don't know whether they'll do that this summer. And that's seriously worrying, because we've got too many players who just don't care.
I do agree, but I also think that you can't fix things, and you can fix them quite quickly.
Yeah, but you have to buy players to do that.
Oh, no, the play. Listen, we can't. If If Everton went into next season with this squad, I'd be terrified.
Yeah.
For the simple reason that the midfield is pathetic.
Pathetic.
It's absolutely pathetic. But when I look at Everton, even if he stays, right, he's a competent enough goalie to be all right. Yeah, I think defensively we're okay.
Yeah.
I do. And I think we've got 2 lads at the top end of the pitch that can score goals and can win us games. I have no doubts about that. And then a bright spark in all of that is Anthony Gordon, who I think will get better. Right? But across the other positions where I think we're crying out, and this is why I said weeks ago when we were talking about this, what the number 1 position was, it's the heart of your midfield. And if Carlo Ancelotti could get Alan, and we know he wants him, if he could get him, there's a fella who knows what Ancelotti wants and knows the game, right? Whether he can do it in the Premier League or not, I don't know. It's a flip of a coin, but it's someone who's his natural competitiveness, he's got that nasty streak about him, and he can run, he's mobile. So therefore that builds you up. I still think we'd need another one, and I think we need a right winger. And I think if they can get them 3 in, and then what you're hoping for is a couple of clubs are stupid enough to come in to get the likes of Sigurdsson
or
and a Wobie or a Bernard.
Or Brand starts earning his money. And
well, he's got to earn his
and
money.
Start shipping these players.
He's got to earn his money, because at the moment, what he's given us ain't good enough. No. Because, listen, Marcel Brands, them players might come good, right? They might come good, for all we know. Yeah? But while you're waiting for players to come good, time doesn't stand still for anybody. So that's why I'm saying before, when we're talking about recruitment, 4 and 4. 4 that you know what you're getting, and 4 that might develop. And if you do that, it all works. It's what good teams do.
And in the meantime, you have got the good
some of this.
The good players we have got with Charlison and Dean. They're looking around. Time's not waiting. We're not waiting.
The way I look at that, is, if they do go, we get big money for them.
No, I agree.
And then that means FFP sorted, and we can reinvest. But I don't want them. I don't want the Charlison going anywhere. No. Not yet. I want to try to build him up a bit more, and I don't think either of them would go. I don't think Everton would sell them this summer. But for me, and I've said this before, in the summer there's only Holgate, Calvert-Lewin, Gordon, Richarlison and Luca Dean, who I wouldn't listen to offers for. Everybody else...
Holgate.
Said Holgate, the first one. Everybody else, I'd say, right, let's have a little chat. And that's a shocking thing to be saying when we've spent money. It's a terrible thing to be saying when we've spent money.
It just hasn't worked. We are live on Patreon. You have been getting your comments in. Gareth Hughes says, new low yesterday. After watching that performance and also watching Villa, Sheffield United and Bournemouth games, I can honestly see us getting no more wins this season. They are fighting for something and we don't give a toss. Richard Parr said, Sheffield United are essentially us under Moyes. No big time Charlies, just a bunch of hard-working players who trust each other to do their jobs and want to play for the club. We didn't think that was enough for us at Everton, as Evertonians, so we tried a different path. How many of us would kill to get back to those days? No. Halfway.
It's the half. You've got halfway. I agree with you, but there's also, you become, as we become very bored with. You want to make the next step.
You want to marry it up. I would, like we were saying before, I think of like that Moyes team in 09, if you had like Lukaku in it. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. Richard Falk says Pickford has got to be replaced. We will not win anything with him in goal. Look at them lot over the park. Had the most feared front three in the land, but Karius in goal. Won nothing, then replacing them and have won trophies galore. Exactly.
Even just to get us fighting for European places, we probably need better than Pickford, to be honest.
Paul Roberts, it's been a depressing few weeks, hasn't it? I know we have little to play for, but we look so far off the pace. We probably need about 2 quality players to stand still, 3 to challenge the likes of Arsenal and Spurs, and 4 to get near Wolves and close to Champions League contention. Fear is the quality we do have, Richarlison and Dean, may not want to stick around to find out. Bill Cummings says, I think most are on their deck chairs, to be honest. That midfield is a disgrace. The way we crumble is unacceptable. The way we don't fight is disgusting. Mike Parrott says, all I can say is Benny must be absolutely trash if he can't get in that midfield. Also massively missing Holgate.
Yeah. Well, he's someone who does care.
Stuart Thompson says, Baz, surely now you see why I dislike Pickford. he is a flapper. You hated Paul Gerrard, but even
don't say Paul Gerrard was better than Pickford.
But even at his current age, I'd have more belief in him.
No.
Pickford terrifies me every time.
Paul Gerrard, the worst goalie I've ever seen after Espen Barton. Pickford, listen, what I'm saying about Pickford is there's undoubtedly a quality goalkeeper there. I'm not saying he's one of the best, but if you could swap him for Donnarumma or Dean Henderson or someone like that, yeah, 100%.
William Gilligan says, bang on about Goodison and the fans, Ped. Mike Barrett says, we want players that other teams want, not players that other teams want to get rid of. Yes, Mike, that is definitely the point going forward. Thor says, what has happened to Dominic Calvert-Lewin since he signed a new contract? He was always going to be bordering on being very ordinary player, in my opinion, but without drive and passion, he's really poor. He's been pathetic in the last few games. I just don't think he's come back with the same opportunities, and I think I
don't think we're playing well as a team either.
I think Dom. Well, that's what I was about to say. I think Dom is a team player. He's not an individual. Richarlison's the individual. I think Dom relies on the team. He'll run all day for the team, but he has to be given opportunities. He's the player who scores scruffy 6-yard goals. You know, penalty spot goals. He's not Richarlison.
Can't make something out of nothing.
Yeah, he's not. He's a worker. He's not an individual like talent.
If he was missing chance after chance, I'd be slating him. But we're not creating anything for him. But then that doesn't say that the pair of them don't need to do more to get in the game.
Bobby C says, since Moyes left the club, the club have chosen managers poorly until we have managed to recruit Carlo. Since Mashiri arrived at the club, has spent over the odds on transfers and wages. That means we have a poor squad with 2 or 3 quality players being guided up by Champions League teams. That's another 5+ years wasted by the club's hierarchy. How much longer before we make progress, even with Carlo at the helm?
It's got to be now, hasn't it? The one thing you can take out of it, the one positive you can take out of all of this, is that none of these are Ancelotti's players. None of them. So you've got to trust that if he can get in a couple, 2 or 3 that he wants, that it'll then start to improve. Because otherwise, it's like putting... I honestly think Jurgen Klopp could come in here and just be like, what the... He might make them run a little bit more, but he'd probably be looking around going, are these for real?
Adam Conroy says, when the team puts out performance like this, it makes it that much harder to defend the team and explain the long-term project to people too, as there is no defence for a performance like that. I just feel sorry for Carlo and the owner, seeing how past managers have misspent his money. As I do think the owner has the best intentions. I don't feel sorry for Mashiri, because I think he hasn't helped the process. He has got the best man in for the job, but I don't feel sorry for him.
But what he should have done was he should have put his own people in at the top of the club. If he was serious, there's not a chance I'd have bought Everton and gone, oh, leave it as it is. Yeah, leave you in charge. Leave that CEO. Yeah, we'll have an internal CEO. Keep it. There's not a chance. I'd have gone, who are the best people in the world? You. In you go, and we start from there.
Barry Stevens says, just so disheartening. Okay, I get there's nothing to play for, but what about playing for the badge and the fans? What about personal pride?
Yeah.
Because they don't seem...
Again, why I'd play Benny Beningame. Because I'd rather a lad who wants to try to prove something run around the pitch than someone who's not really asked and picking up 110 grand a week or whatever he's getting.
And Jake says, I think the centre midfield situation is glaringly obvious, but we cannot forget the other positions that massively stick out too. We lost Zuma and did not replace him or buy him. We lost Guy and signed a ghost as his replacement. And when did we ever sign Coleman's replacement? He's been in the team 10 years. We need massive competition for Pickford too. I agree. Recruitment's been odd, to say the least.
Centre back to me is
well, we were trying to buy centre back.
Well, we were trying to buy Gabriel, weren't we? But I look and just the centre back to me is not as massive issue. The centre of midfield and the right winger is a huge issue, because if you haven't got people who can get hold of the game for you and get your players in, and then you haven't got players in wide areas that can create things and create opportunities, then you're not going to score goals and you're not going to keep goals up.
Let's finish off with Kane. He says, what do we need to do now under Carlo to stop us going round in circles?
We've got to back him, simple as. And listen, I'm not talking about £300 million. I'm talking about getting players in smartly, like we've said. Players who are going to come into this team and knit this team together. It's all right having... I'd go as far as saying everyone Marcel Brands has signed are all good footballers. But it doesn't mean they're all fit in Everton's team. Everton's team needs to be made up of... When you pick a team, when you put a team up, you need to not have to worry about half of them. And I don't think there's not half you don't have to worry about in our team at the moment. You have to start with him. You're not convinced.
And I think
Holgate, you don't have to worry about. People like Anthony Gordon, you don't have to worry about them because he wants it. Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, you don't have to worry about. There's too many others.
And I think we've seen that. I think Wolves are the perfect team to play against to show that. Because Wolves brought subs on and the subs just melted into the position where the player had already been and did exactly the same thing and offered something coming off the bench. Wolves are the perfect example. Great recruitment. Players, the manager knows the players. The players come in and understand the job. And they can rotate players, leave players out, bring people in. And the levels are not that dissimilar. Okay, not everyone's going to be like Traore. Not everyone's going to be like Jimenez up front. But that's what they're doing. Yeah, our players come on and look lost.
They've used the least players as well.
Well, they've done really well.
The Moyes, aren't they? They've got the
done
team
really well.
they play with.
And I think that's the difference. They've done, and Sheffield United are similar. They all know the jobs. And that's a big problem.
Really, I don't believe, and I'm a great believer in it, it isn't difficult to build a Premier League team that can finish in the Europa League. Not at all. Burnley have kind of shown you that. Sheffield United have shown you.
Everton beg to differ.
Oh, but it isn't. And it's recruitment. It's because you build a team, you go, right, what do we need to compete first? So you get the stuff you need to compete, then you put the nice little bits on, and you have the squad fillers. We've gone for the nice little bits.
You make yourself competitive, and then you put the sprinkles on it.
And then you hope to improve when you're improving. You build on top of what you've got, and we haven't. So to answer your question, Kane, we've got to just go with this plan, get some competitors in, some players he wants, and people who he knows can do what he needs them to do, and then you will see an improvement.
There you go.
Sure.
Thanks for everyone on Patreon for getting involved in the show. There you have it. This has been the final word. Wolves 3, Everton 0. Just 3 more games to go, people.
God.
Just 3. This time in 2 weeks, we'll all be sitting here with our shorts and our flip-flops. Even that's what the players are like now, with their drinks. There you go. Yeah, thank you. Give this video a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're not watching this live and you want to watch it live, click the link in the description to join us on Patreon. Also, a big thank you to everyone. We have just gone over 20 million views.
20 million?
20 million times people have watched us talk about Everton.
That's incredible, isn't it?
It's incredible.
Incredible.
Or whatever other nonsense we've been doing.
Yeah.
20 million times.
Full trailblazers, everyone following us.
Say no more. There you go. Thanks for watching. See you later.